Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Simon from BizLearn. Hi and welcome to the brand new tutorial series, The Impossible Pattern. Thanks for watching and for your interest, I appreciate that. I will directly dive into the existing construction and explain you some details which we are going to uncover during the next couple of minutes. I am going to create two videos because otherwise the size is gonna be too large. But after the first video, the first very important step of creating the initial pattern will be finalized. Within here you can see I've created an additional coordinate system, and the reason is it is right now overlapping the basic coordinate system. The reason is I want to be able to rotate and move my construction afterwards without moving the basic coordinate system, which usually shall not be moved. I'm going to proceed with the creation of my guiding, meaning an extrude, which I am going to blend, as you can see, an intersection curve, which is joined, is going to be used in order to, well, create a composite curve. As I mentioned before, is the join of the curve. So the result is one single curve, which is extruded again. Compared to this one, there are no internal face edges, which is important for the next steps. I've created a point, a datum axis, and a further datum axis. Why? The reason is I have used this as a reference for the datum coordinate system. Yes, it is some effort required to do that, but it's more stable, more individual, more update stable, more reusable in the end. And then it was time to create the flattening and forming. So this body was unformed. It is flat. It is located within a plane, as you can see. I have created a further intersection curve and an associative measurement. This is important because upon here, I have defined an expression which is called number, and the only thing I had to do is create a tiny sketch which is depending on number and the length measurement. Afterwards, I was able to create a pattern also related to the, well, as you can see, number. And of course, flattening and forming was used twice in order to wrap the curves upon the original geometry, as you can see here. The advantage is that my pattern does exactly match the end of my body. These are gonna be the first steps. In the next video, I'm just gonna demonstrate to you. We are going to create geometry. But until this point, you will be able to adjust to use expressions without, hopefully, mistakes. In the next video, I'm gonna be using law extension in order to create a surface, a sheet body. I'm gonna be using edge blend. So as you can see, the edge blend, better to say the fillets are not created within the sketch because this is less computing intensive if you create it afterwards related to the entire body. I have created a line. Why? Because there are some cutouts which you will see in a few seconds. Here is a line. I've created a tube, which you see here, which is also rounded, and I've created a pattern of the tube. And there are some settings required to receive such a result, which I'm going to show you in the next video. Those are subtracted from the sheet body, and now the last step is the creation of a solid body by use of the thicken command. This is what I'm going to show you today and 2 days later on Thursday. I will directly dive into the construction now. It's time to start the impossible pattern creation by first of all defining values with the expression editor Ctrl-E on the keyboard. The first expression which is required is a number. I'm going to start with a number of 25, but it's not millimeters. It's not a length, as you can see. It's a number instead. What you can do instead of using this value here is define a different type, which could be integer. I'm going to apply this. Next expression we need is the height, which could be, for example, 50. We can change that later on. Next step is the creation of a datum coordinate system, which is, of course, also pretty simple. I just reset the command. You can see the reference by default is WCS, which is not associative, not recommended. So I'm going to be using selected CSS instead and create a relation to my basic coordinate system. This one, the second coordinate system, which I have actually created, is going to be moved afterwards, not this one. The next step is the creation of the extrude, our guidelines. I'm just going to reset this one as well. Center mouse button to enter the create sketch dialog. I'm going to be using top, center mouse button twice, and I'm going to draw a profile. Also here, dimensioning is not important at the moment. Just something like that, and I'm directly going to finish the sketch. This must be approximately 200 millimeters or 300 in width. The distance value here is something huge, something bigger than the height, which is 50 at the moment, and it's going to be symmetric. And of course, you can combine it with the expression. So I'm going to be using a higher value, of course. So I'm going to be using height multiplied with 2 and apply with the center mouse button. The sketch now is internal. If you want to modify the sketch, right click, edit sketch, or make it external. However, I prefer the internal solution because there is no need for me to create a further reference towards the sketch. I'm going to create the edge blend next and a relation to the entire body. So body edges, I'm going to select one edge of the body and define a value of maybe 100 millimeter, maybe even more, something like this. I'm going to apply this via center mouse button twice. And the next step is the creation of our intersection curve, and that's important because right now we've got two planes we can use, two top planes we can use, and I want to create references to my second coordinate system only, not this one. Because if I'm moving this one afterwards, of course, every relation shall be moved parallelly. And that's why we shall avoid right now at this point to create relations to this coordinate system. But as you can see, that's what I did with the extrude. That was a mistake you should avoid. Well, how can I repair this? There are a couple of opportunities now. You can repair it within the sketch, or what you can do instead is just to copy and paste this on the display coordinate system like that. And now I'm going to delete the old features. Now you can see we have a relation to the second coordinate system, which is better than having a relation to this one. I am also producing mistakes. I'm not going to cut it from this video because it's somehow a good reminder for you. Let's create some intersection curves next. Via curve, intersection curve. I'm going to create a relation to the overall body. So I'm just going to reset this. You can see the default here is body faces, which is pretty good. And if the default is body faces, you can select here as well, as you can see. So it's not feature faces, which is selected because the edge blend is also selected. If I right click here, it's body faces and not feature faces. As a second reference, I'm going to be using the top plane from the second coordinate system. And that's all you got to do. I'm just going to apply this. And now I am going to create a composite curve, which is listed upon here. I'm going to create a relation to the overall feature by just a left click into the part navigator. You can see tangent curves is the default selection rule here. But if you right click, it's feature curve after having selected in the part navigator. Now there's one setting we got to do. It's join curves general, because the result shall be one single curve which is connected. It's a rational B-spline which is going to be created. So straight lines are still going to be straight and radial lines are still going to be radial, but it's going to be connected to one single curve. I'm going to create a further extrude from those, but therefore I'm going to be using copy and paste. So I'm going to hide the intersection curve in order to avoid mistakes. And the problem with this extrude, if I do copy and paste now, is you cannot copy and paste this because there is an internal sketch. So I'm gonna make the sketch external. Now I can copy the extrude, paste it, and reuse the composite curve as a reference. Via center mouse button, I'm gonna apply, and now I'm gonna make the sketch internal again. Via right click, you can see it's not possible right now. And the reason is there is still a relation to the second extrude. So there's something I forgot to do. I'm going to copy and paste this again. Control C, Control V. The direction of the extrusion is still referenced to the external sketch. I'm going to select the composite curve. And the problem is a composite curve, I mean, it's still aligning a plane, so it's planar. But the direction of the extrusion is not inferred from the composite curve because it does not include a plane or coordinate system as a sketch does. That's the reason why the reference to the sketch was kept. And what I gotta do now, I have to select a reference for the extrusion. So I'm gonna select this plane, for example, and apply via center mouse button. And now you can see there is no more a relation to my new extrude. This sketch shall be internal again. Right click on the extrude, make sketch internal. I mean, copy and paste, it was more complex than creating a new extrude. But I think I'm also gonna leave it in the video because somehow it helps you to understand the relation and copy and paste feature and so on, etc. I'm directly gonna proceed by creating a point, but there's something I'd like to show you. I'm just gonna hide this. You can see there are no edges within the extrude. My initial point is going to be here at the start of the composite curve. If I double click this, you can see the start is over there. I'm just going to reverse this, just like that. Why? Because if I create a point now, via point on curve, I have made sure that the point is on this side and not on this one. I'm going to be using point on curve. I'm going to select the curve. It's the composite curve, and you can see it's on this side because the start point of my composite curve is also here and no more over there. Everything I'm going to create now is going to start on this side. So location reference is start of curve. This is okay. The location is arc length or percentage value. Anyway, it could be 100% or 0. It shall maintain 0%. I'm going to be using this point as a reference for my datum axis, which I'm going to create now. And I'm not going to be using invert. I'm going to be using on curve vector. I think this is what I need. I'm not sure. Maybe it's this one. Let's give it a try. I think it's point and direction. I'm sorry for that. It's point and direction. To specify point, that's pretty simple. I'm going to select the point. To specify a vector, there is the composite curve, which I can use. And you can see there's nothing happening right now because I think I have to select it within the graphics area. The reason is I'm not going to create a relation to a feature rather than an object. The object, the curve itself, is a result from the feature. And within here, maybe, as you can see, there is a single curve selection rule, but you cannot adjust it. And even here, you can select the spline of composite curve, but not the feature itself. So only object selection is possible within here. It's still not always possible to select within the part navigator. I think it must be around about 5% where you cannot select in the part navigator, and this is one case. This one is parallel to vector as well. Also here, it is not possible to select the surface by selecting the feature as before, so you will have to select within here. But And that's one of the reasons why I've created a composite curve, which is joined, and the extrude twice, because this extrude does only result in one single surface, one single body, one single object. And now I have created a relation to this certain object. And if anything is modified within my initial sketch, the modification will be update stable because my relations are unique. I'm gonna apply this via OK, and now I'm gonna create a coordinate system via Datum ceases, which of course is a little bit of an effort. I'm gonna be creating a Datum ceases consisting of an origin, of course, the Z and X axis. This is my origin. Next, I'm gonna select the Z axis, which is this one, and the X axis, which is this one. And you can see that X and Y, this is gonna be my sketch plane, are perfectly aligned because my sketch is gonna be orientated in this area. Of course, it's gonna be associative. I'm gonna apply via center mouse button. And now I'm able to unform this shape by using flattening and forming. It's not listed in here by default, so I'm going to be using the command finder. And one of the enhancements of this version is that you can directly enter commands without an additional dialog being opened by just selecting from the drop down here. I'm going to start with flattening. The default is flattening, by the way. So if I reset this, you can see default is flattening. There are a couple of opportunities now. You can specify ceases by, well, you have to use the ceases dialog, because if you select this one, you can see there is a coordinate system that is displayed and somehow related to our, guess what, WCS. So if you enter this dialog, you can see there is a typical default, which is, well, reference, absolute, or WCS. It's the same. So I'm going to be using selected ceases instead, create a relation to this one. I'm going to apply via center mouse button, but still I will have to select a face, a source face. And here there is a selection rule, which is not so important because it's just a single face. You could use single face, you could use body faces, you could use feature faces. And the result is all the same, and the behavior as well. But still, I'm going to be using body faces. And I'm going to create a reference to, well, face of the extrude. There is no other possibility beside this one, which is hidden, of course. My origin of the flattening is, I guess it's this point. The U direction is this axis. And the V direction must be, I guess it must be the axis I've created before. It's this one. And you can see it's completely disorientated now. I'm just searching for a, I guess I shouldn't have selected the ceases like this. Just let me have a look. I think there was still a mistake somehow. I'm gonna select again, and now you can see it's properly aligned. I think I haven't created a reference, or maybe there was an offset value defined. I don't have it in mind. I have to review the video, and maybe I'm totally wrong. So you can see U is this direction. Of course, this is wrong, so I'm gonna change the direction. I'm gonna be using this one as the V direction, which takes a couple of seconds, and this one as U. And now you can see it's properly orientated. So, not so simple if you do a tiny mistake, but I think it's still you're able to catch up and understand this. So, this is the face. I'm going to unform. Of course, here is my origin. And my U direction. This is something I had to think of, because there is a specific rule which you can follow. I mean, what is U, what is V? This is clarified in my freeform course, but one thing that is clear is that this is always the U direction, because it is the section direction. And the result of the extrude, meaning the direction of the extrude, is in that case the V direction. Alright, everything is properly defined. There's no setting we additionally have to do. And so I can apply this. So next step is to create an intersection. And therefore I'm also going to be using this existing intersection, which I'm going to copy and paste. And I'm going to create a relation to, well, faces to intersect. Just remember, it's hidden right now. That's why it's not displayed. So it's this one, which is right now hidden. I'm going to be selecting this one now, and the plane is the same plane, which is going to be reused if you don't select anything else. So I'm going to apply this via OK. Here's my intersection curve. It don't have to be displayed, by the way, because measurement can also be related on, I guess, hidden things. So I'm just going to give it a try. Measure. The object is my intersection curve, and that's so cool. It's hidden, and you can still select it. And what we need is the length of the curve or edge, however, which is going to be associative. So you will have to select the associative option within here, just related to the length. So it don't have to be associative overall. By the way, there is another enhancement I'd like to introduce. It's Create Geometry, which is now available in NX 1980. Well, it has been available in the past regarding the old measure commands, the, well, length measurement, etc. And during the implementation of the new measure tool, they forgot somehow to implement the Create Geometry option, which is now available. So it is partially associative, which is okay. So I'm going to apply this. And of course, there is an expression somehow which we have to consider. So I'm just going to search for it. It's a measurement. We don't have that much expressions within here. It's easy to find. It's P35, which is my measurement. So this is something we have to remember, because the next step is the creation of our second sketch, which I'm going to start directly. And I'm going to create a relation to the top plane, meaning the X and Y plane of this new coordinate system. I'm just going to apply this via the center mouse button. First of all, I'm going to create a simple line starting from the sketch origin. And you cannot directly type in a formula here, so I'm just going to do it approximately and apply. I'm going to apply the command via center mouse button, double click this, and you can see it's not an expression yet. So it's not a parameter yet. It's not going to be listed within the details tab after having finished the sketch. What you have to do is to right click, add, remove expression. What you can also do is directly type in the formula within here, so it's going to be converted. But I'm going to add remove, and we get this nice overview here. I'm just going to call this length and use the P35. You can see here it's measure. It's described, well described. So I'm going to divide this by number. If this is not working for you now, it's probably because you forgot to convert this to an integer within the expression editor. This shall always be done. And I'm going to scale the sketch. So this is my part. This is 1/25 of the overall length. And now I have to create some geometry, of course. Therefore, I'm going to be using the profile. I'm first of all just going to draw it approximately. And I'm going to create my relations now. It's depending on the version you are using right now, because in my case, this has caused some problems directly after the release of the new sketch solver. Now it shall be working properly. What you can do here is you can, first of all, expand here, and there are some options which I'm going to enable. And within here, you have the opportunity of creating persistent relations. And now every relation you create is going to be persistent. It has a higher priority than non-persistent relations. And I'm going to create a midpoint alignment now by using this point and this curve. I'm going to apply via center mouse button. And it's just not displayed, so you will also have to enable the display of persistent relations, and here it is. These curves here are going to be equal in length. And now let's just check the degrees of freedom here. What I also have to do, I have to create a symmetry here from between this one and this one. It would have been easier if I have created 2 lines instead of 1. So that's what I'm going to do additionally. I'm going to create an additional line from this one to this point. And I'm going to select it, convert it to reference, of course. I'm going to select again and use the equal length relation, which is here. And now it's perfectly aligned. Those curves are still movable. It's still 4 movable curves. Doesn't mean there are 4 relations missing, because there is only one relation we need. It's the height. Well, which is described within here. So I think I'm going to create a relation from this top point to this lower point. I'm going to be using this dimension here, this proposed dimension, and I'm going to combine it with my expression, which is called height. And you can see within this version, you can directly type in the expression name, and an expression is going to be created automatically. In 1926, this was not possible, still not possible. You will have to right-click and add remove expression. But within this version, since NX 1953, you are able to directly type in the expression. And now the sketch is fully defined. Well, I have created some persistent relations which wouldn't have been necessary. Those are definitely not necessary. Maybe also this one. But I still wanted to show you because I did not mention in any of my videos that it's possible to create persistent relations. Of course, those are more computing intensive than the non-persistent relations. This is something you should consider because it takes a little bit more time to be computed, but in terms of just having such a small sketch, it's no problem. I'm gonna finish this. And well, the next step is my pattern. And therefore, I'm gonna be using a very simple pattern. I'm gonna create a feature which is called, not the pattern feature, I'm going to be using pattern geometry instead. And I'm going to create a relation, that's very important, to my overall sketch, just like this. And I did forget to convert this curve to a reference. This is something I still need to do. And I'm not going to do it afterwards, I'm going to do it right now. So this one needs to be converted. I'm going to right click, finish sketch, and restart the pattern geometry command, which is here. As you can see, it's the default here after having reset. So I'm going to select my sketch. It's going to be a linear pattern. My vector, I'm going to be selecting my, you can select the datum axis because it's the older element. And it's going to be count and span. The count is of course my number. Perfectly aligned, and also here perfectly aligned. So the formula you need is measurement minus, in brackets, measurement divided by number. That's what we need. All right, and the last step is of course reusing flattening and forming again, but not by using copy and paste. I'm going to restart the command by using the search opportunity upon here, flattening and forming. And this time I'm going to be using forming and reuse. I'm going to select the object. What is the object? Of course, it must be the flattening feature as described here. So it's one click in the part navigator. And transforming objects. This is very important. Now to select sketch and of course pattern geometry. And guess what? There's still one setting required. Otherwise this is gonna happen. It's gonna be somehow projected. I don't actually know. You have to enable reverse transformation. And now this is perfectly aligning and perfectly orientated, as you can see. Also aligning here perfectly on our original shape. And the last thing you can do, of course, before we proceed, because there are some steps required and some explanation required, which I'm gonna demonstrate you in the next video. But the last thing you can do is just check whether everything is working properly by adjusting the values here, 50, or maybe adjusting the height to 25. However, as you did see, some explanation was necessary. I also produced some mistakes, and I had to review the formula because I was unable to think. Sorry for that. I'm also doing my mistakes, as you can see. But in the end, if there's still a problem or anything defined not properly in order to, well, somehow orientate by using the coordinate system, you can give it a try. That's what I'm going to do in the next video. We are going to solve it in the second and last tutorial concerning the impossible pattern. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you still have questions because something was unclear, let me know in the comments below. Use the thumbs up button if you liked the video. I would appreciate that. Hopefully, if you like my content, and if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you to subscribe because I am uploading once a week in a minimum. The next tutorial is going to follow in 2 days. There are only 2 days left, so we can proceed this exercise in 2 days. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope you enjoyed the content. I wish you a nice day. Goodbye.